Now, because I took too long on the best, I'm gonna try and get through the worst as quick as possible. And yeah, so with that said, at number 10 is Proud Mary. Now, Proud Mary is a movie where it was seemingly out of the range of where Taraji P. Henson has really been in. She's triumphed with comedies and dramas more especially with that. But when it comes to these type of movies, it seems somewhat out of her wheelhouse, and in this movie you can see it because it's not really all her fault, because she did a decent job in her part, but it was just surrounded by just seemingly bad direction, bad acting, bad writing, just poor decision making, and just it was a movie that probably could have been better with just different aspects of it just changed. Maybe a different director, writer, just maybe a different actress portraying the role, or just a better director to show what they need to do to make this a little bit better. I don't know, but it was just a overall bad experience for me, and it was just like a forehead like smack when I was just watching it, and it was just But number 10 is Robin Hood, a movie I saw last year. Was wondering why I didn't have that much promotion. Once I saw it, I was like, okay, I see why. And it had promise. It had certain things, certain aspects to it that did kind of work, but it was very small aspects. For the overall movie was just completely just garbage. And I'm just like, why? I went to an early screening, but that was really only because they was giving out a free glass with it, and I was just like, hey, I want it, and let me just go get it. And yeah, I was very disappointed by the movie. I didn't have expectations for it, but it was one of those movies where it was like, yeah, you can go ahead and skip this, and it set up for a sequel that will never ever ever happen. At number 8, Winchester, advertised as a horror film, wasn't scary. It was, they could have done something special with this, but they didn't. And I'm just like, what the hell? It was just, I don't know, it's cliche horror done just executed just poorly. You go into it and it's just the story wasn't engaging, the characters weren't engaging, the development of the characters, the backstory and all the stuff really wasn't engaging, and it was just a poor execution of what could have been a creative and done better type movie, and it just wasn't. At number 7, we have Show Dogs, a movie I really didn't care for. I took my son, and I was just bored throughout the whole movie. It had certain things that was just lined up that just was not funny at all, and it was one of those movies where you just kind of like, how much money did they get paid to be in this movie? They read the script and actually like signed on to be in this film. I mean, I guess it's different from when you read it and when you're actually like recording it, but this was a movie where you can tell that it wasn't going to be a good movie. You could just simply tell. But I brought my son, so it was, if he enjoyed it, hey, it's whatever. Number 6, The Nun, another horror film that was not scary at all. It was a far cry from the Conjuring universe, The Conjuring being one of my favorite horror films of all time. And it was just a cliche, just horror film, just paint by numbers, and it wasn't scary. I was in it, and I was just, am I supposed to be scared? I wasn't creeped out or anything. It really didn't have anything to offer, and it made connections to the Conjuring franchise that it was just kind of a poor movie. If you enjoyed it, hell, whatever. I simply just did not enjoy it because it was just not a good movie. Deep Blue Sea 2, a movie that didn't touch the theaters, and I know why. Because it's the same exact movie as the first one. That's really all I need to say about it. The acting was like this one was basically a ripoff of the first. I mean, this one was a ripoff of the first one. Everything that the first one did right, even if you look at it as a guilty pleasure, it's still enjoyable. It's still a good movie. I still enjoy it. This one was just a blatant ripoff of the first one. Did the same exact thing, but with everything just executed wrong as hell. If you were looking at, like, if they did the first one wrong, the second one is exactly like it. It's just, there's nothing really to say more about this movie. Is that it's literally the same movie, but it's just a bad version of it. And yeah, that's why I made it on this list. Number 4, The Predator, a movie where I'm just like, wow. The director in this, he's a person that does good movies. I don't know why this movie was the way it was. It had potential to be good, it had a potential to be great, and it just didn't touch that. It went for a more comedy based type, like, I guess, horror thriller, I don't know, but it just did it all wrong. And it was another one of those movies where it ended off to where it's like, okay, we're planning on making another one, and then just the box office says no, you're not, you're just not. And the audience said it too, and the critics say it too. This movie was just bad. Number 3, which I'm surprised myself was at number 3, because I truly hated this film, which is Strangers Pray at Night, which is the sequel to the movie The Strangers, and it was bad. It was full with bad decisions. I have my review up on it on my channel if you go check it out. But yeah, this is a movie where the first one put them in a situation to where, yeah, they're gonna have trouble getting out of. This movie was set in a situation to where they can easily get out of, but chose not to choose it. And after that, I just blanked out the movie. This movie just completely fell off. This was a movie that you could tell by the trailer was made for the new audience, and they didn't have to do much. They just had to make a horror film, and that's it. No thought really put into it and making it good. Certain things that the first one set up, they just kind of just threw it out the window and just completely crashed it into the ground, crashed the plane into the ground, and that's exactly what you got. It's not a train wreck, it is a plane crash, one of the most horrific plane crashes of all time. Number 2, Holmes and Watson, was a movie that I wanted to check out. I didn't have too much faith into it, but I'm thinking like, hey, I may get some excitement out of it, some enjoyment, and I was like, right. It was just horrible. Just a bad movie. I contemplated walking out of the movie several times. I didn't. I wanted to stick it out to the end. And this was one of those movies where the first scene shows you what you're in for, and the rest of the movie just went downhill completely. It was not funny, and it was just bad. Just horrible. Number 1 is not a movie that touched theaters, but it was a movie blatantly just like Deep Blue Sea 2, trying to rip off of the first one, but did it poorly. It was Tales from the Hood 2. It's a lot to say about this movie, but it did what the first one did, but horribly. It had the same setup, basically the same exact movie as the first one, just different. And just saying the shit weirdly 15 times throughout the movie, it just does not make it good. It does an injustice to the first one, which is, if you look at it as a guilty pleasure, a good guilty pleasure. This one was just guilty at being horrible, just bad. And yeah, it's worse than Holmes and Watson. I'd say, I had to think about it, and it's worse than Holmes and Watson, because it's supposed to be a horror film, and it just did not deliver at all. Just hard. It just did not deliver at all. But yeah. So before I get right into the most anticipated of this year, I'm about to get into some quick dishonorable mentions, which is not that many, which is The Possession of Hannah Grace and Annihilation. I know a lot of people like that. I truly didn't. So yeah, it's a dishonorable mention. But yeah, that wraps up the worst of 2018.